As you can see, guys, it's a very wet day. This rain looks to be set in. I think Neenee's still up there swimming. Mum would be under an umbrella up there with her. She went up there with her.
They asked, do you want to have lunch here or?
We might go for a drive for lunch, I think.
Tell them.
Yeah, just so they're not waiting in the kitchen. Yeah, they're just asking us whether we want lunch here or not, because we literally do have the whole place to ourselves up here at the Le Grand in Park Bang. The only ones in the restaurant last night. They still open the restaurant, still put on a great breakfast for us. They just asked, do we want to have lunch here or not? So we'll go for a drive somewhere, just so they know what to do and they don't have to be hanging around in the kitchen for us. But while it's wet, we're not doing anything. It's just before midday. In case I don't get to live stream tonight, by the time you guys are watching this, you will have known if I had or not. But there was a couple of questions I did get. People wanted answers to, you know, just talking points for the live stream. I thought I'd answer them here, do a video on them, just in case I don't live stream. I've just got to locate them now. What's that view look like? Probably a bit blurry because it's focused on me, but so distracting up here it is. I've got to find these. Okay, this was the main one by Ferg. Hi Todd, always enjoy your content. So a few questions for your next live stream. As someone who was thinking about moving to Southeast Asia, not sure exactly where yet, what are your biggest challenges you faced moving to Laos, like language, food, weather, etc. And just adapting to a different culture. I've no doubt that having a wife who has helped with the language especially has been a big help. And how do you think you would have adapted had you not had a Lao partner? And what general advice would you give to someone making the move? Greetings from Ireland. How are you, Ferg? Great questions, mate, and great talking points. Biggest challenge. The biggest challenge moving here to Laos, because it is different in other parts of that Southeast Asia, as they do speak English a lot more in other parts such as the Philippines, Thailand, a bit more in Vietnam. I'm not so sure about Cambodia, but for Laos, outside of the tourist areas, if you were going to move here, even in Vientiane, I have trouble, but that has been my biggest challenge, the language. I've learnt the numbers. I can get by here, I can shop here, I can do all that. But it's you'll find once you know a few words and you can shop, you know the numbers, they think that you can speak Lao, and that's what's embarrassing to me. You know, they'll go on and ask me a question and it just goes straight over my head. You know, when I first started vlogging and I moved here to Laos, I did a video on saying it is, if you're going to live here, it is a must, and I still believe that it is a must. Other things have gotten in my way. There has been other obstacles that has crept up that I did not foresee. You know, Neenee has been a huge help, and yes, it is a huge help having a Lao partner to do it. But in saying that, I've learnt the things to get by going out. When we had the restaurant, going to the market, so I would be listening to Neenee and ask what that means, and I'm putting it into to practice, learning the numbers, and knowing how to ask for things and things like that. But when it came to conversation back home and that, she would always slip back into English just to make the communication easier. I was never forced to learn Lao, because her English was so well. Her son, Coco, speaks English better than her. Even now with Mina's not so much, she helps me with pronunciation of things very good because she understands what it's like learning a language freshly. But she's better than Coco and Neenee put together in English now. She's better than me in English. But the language has been the biggest hurdle for me, and still is. And one day I will do it. Why it has always been put on the back burner for me, it's not because I'm lazy in that, it's because we have relied so much on the YouTube revenue, me keeping these videos going for that cash flow to come in. And for me to throw myself into something, and that's what I do, I throw myself into something, and for me to learn at this age, I'm going to have to study it, and I will one day. I will put YouTube videos on hold, and I will go and I'll learn 3-4 days a week. Get up, just do it like work. Go, learn to read and write and speak Lao, so I can have those in-depth conversations, and that will take the channel to another level in the future, I believe, being able to communicate with people in these villages, and just being able to have a discussion with the locals and things like that. But as it is at the moment, still relying on this cash flow. Before I came and lived in Laos permanently, I was still working until COVID. I got stuck here during COVID, and that job just wasn't there to go back to. During the time I was stuck here in COVID and all you guys were in lockdown, we were travelling Laos, showing Lao videos, and the channel took off. And that took over being able to pay the bills and that. The restaurant closed, Neenee's restaurant closed, and that is where the channel helped out. Neenee started her channel and things like that, and we did come reliant on this as a cash flow. Yes, she has investments in that, in land and that, but you don't want to just go selling off land just to pay the bills. So we are still reliant on these the YouTube revenue, and that is why she is starting to invest in her land now, building renting places out, such as Co-Care, the little place we've just renovated. There's a few other projects we want to do. She sold off land back to the government who wanted to do a project, and instead of just leaving that money there and spending it on bills, she's actually building the small homes as rentals, and in 8-12 months when they're finished, we will be renting them out. Once we have that bit of passive income coming in from them, no doubt my video content will slow down a bit, and where we're not so reliant on it, so I can go and learn. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but some of you may be thinking, you've got plenty of time, Todd. All you're doing is doing YouTube videos. I know how much time I put into a YouTube video. I'm retired. It is all about living your life here. I don't want to pile on more pressure and run myself ragged to be punching out videos, studying Lao, and still trying to do the things I enjoy in life, like go to the gym, spend time with Mina, and relax and things like that. So I've got a great balance at the moment, and when it comes time to do something else, one of those things will be dropping. not saying I'm going to be cutting out on YouTube videos altogether, but they will slow for a time once I do start studying and learning Lao, and then I will come back and avenge it. I really do love creating YouTube videos. It is still a log, a diary of my life. You know what I mean? It is what I'm going to leave behind for my family. It is my mark, and I create the videos for myself first. Yes, I do a lot of videos now, but of things people are interested in, but I still do them in my way. You know, I don't put a lot of work into them. I don't script them. I don't research them. I just do them how I see it, how yous would see it, yous were travelling here, and I think that's the appeal to some of it. But went off on a wild tangent there, Ferg, but I think you get the message, the idea that the language barrier in Laos is the biggest thing. You know, in places like Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng and Vientiane, you're still going to find it a little difficult, but you're going to find it much better than if you were out in the rural areas. The food not so much. Surprisingly, the food has been pretty good. There's a lot of things I don't go near. You know, if you ask them if it's spicy and they say no, expect it to be a little bit spicy. If they say it's a little spicy, don't go near it. It's going to blow your head off. But first moving here, you may find it difficult with the food, but you're going to be able to find all the comfort all the comfort food you're used to. I'm talking about the major cities that you're used to back home. You know, once you locate them, you'll be able to find a good pizza, a good hamburger, a good steak. You're going to find the supermarkets that sell you the oats, the milk, and chocolate chip cookies, just the things that you're used to, you know. Don't even bother going to the supermarkets for fresh fruit and veg. The supermarkets, I mean, you know, just shop at the local markets, but just for your comfort food, you're going to be fine. If you have no problem eating in local food, you're going to have no problem at all. It was not a biggie for me, for Lao food. When we travel, you know, I just stick to a few dishes, but I can find those dishes all throughout Laos. The weather. the weather. This weather I absolutely love. This is terrific. From late March, even early March, it is really starting to heat up. They're starting to burn off. From March through to the rainy season, which starts May, mid-May to the end of May, it is horrendously hot. I recommend tourists wanting to travel here not to come in those 3 months, March, April, May. Even though one of the largest festivals in Lao New Year, B-Mai, is on in April, mid-April, and is a great event to come to, it is horrendously hot. People have trouble breathing here because of the burning off season and that, and most people spend their time indoors during those 3 months. You know, you can shoot a gun up the main street of one of the main streets of Vientiane in the middle of the day in those months because people just aren't out. It is that hot. They come out later on in the day. But for the rest of the year, from mid-March, the rain does come and start to clean that smoke up, you know. They're finished burning off around late April anyway, early May, but it still doesn't all go away until the rains come. So, but from May through to February, mate. The weather is great, you know, and rainy season now. It was raining yesterday and we were swimming. That bath was very that bath. That's what it was like. That pool was very pleasant. It was good. And as far as winters here, you know, November, December, January, about the coolest it gets in around Vientiane in the depth of winter is about 8 degrees Celsius. You know, up in the mountains, up around Sengquang and places like that, it does get a little bit chillier, but nothing like the winters you'd be used to, man. The winters, you know, in North America experience. The winters we experience in Australia, you know, it was down to -3 just a couple of days ago, Mum was saying. Your neck knock. It is a very warm country, and it does take a bit of getting used to those warmer months in Laos. Some people do live here without air conditioning. A shout out to you, Chris Perkins. You've done it for a while, mate, I know. There's no way I could do it. You know, and most people in Laos, you know, living in the cities, the build-up areas, and they do have ACs now, so you'll get by now. You'll get by. You know, the heat outweighs the serious cold that we're all used to in winter, the miserable weather. There is really no miserable weather here. Even on days like this, I could go up there and jump in the water now. A lot of people associate rain with cold, and that's understandable where we come from, but not here. How's that battery going? It's in the red. Okay. Let me get back to you guys, and then I'll continue. Adapting to their culture. Laos is a very rich country in culture. It is. I would go as far as saying even more so than Thailand and the surrounding countries. As far as adapting to them, no problem at all. Because the Lao are very chill people. They don't take things very seriously, and they understand how strong their culture is and are very forgiving towards new people who don't understand it. You know, even official ceremonies and things that you've seen us go to or hold Barsi ceremonies and weddings and the house starting, digging, building ceremony. There are no sort of rules or things like that. You know, they're having the ceremony. It's very rich in culture, but it's more of a almost anything goes sort of thing. So it isn't hard for a Westerner to just follow along in their culture. You know, there are certain things that is nice to do, you know, and that aren't really frowned upon, but that they don't. You know, little things like patting children's heads or anybody's head, you know, because it's supposed to be the most sacred part of a person. You know, when you're walking in front of elders, if they're sitting down, always just try to bob your head and walk past. You'll see people do that to you all the time, even at a restaurant, or you're out on the street and you're just sitting there, or anywhere. If a Lao person wants to move past you and the only path they've got is in front of you, they'll duck down to be lower than you. You know, not saying you need to learn to do that, it's just the way they are, just explaining what they're actually doing. The culture. No, you can just come here and live the way you do, yeah, respectfully. You know, you're not going to be walking the main street in your budgie smugglers or anything like that. But, you know, respectfully visiting temples with at least long shorts on. you know, and a shirt. Doesn't have to be a button-up shirt. When you go to government buildings for visas and foreign affairs or immigration and things like that, try to remember to wear long pants. You can wear a button-up shirt then if you like. Dress more respectful for them, because you will see Neenee carries a sin around in the car most of the time, but when we do stop at places like that, she'll put a sin. Sin is the traditional Laos skirt, and you'll see most people do dress, ladies do dress like that when they go to offices and weddings and things like that. Rich in culture, you don't need to be rich in observing their culture. You know, it's just, you're free to live your own life here comfortably the way you do it, but respectfully to others. You know, yeah, I'm very happy here. I am. It is a very easy place to live. It's that easy the longer you stay here, and I've spoken to other people who have just travelled here, and each time they come back they stay a little bit longer, and it does get harder to leave. You know, Laos does imprint something on you. You know, it leaves something behind in you that you just do want to keep coming back, and the longer you're here the harder it is to leave, and I can't see myself living anywhere else. I keep getting the smell of port wine magnolias. You know, that rich, sweet, fruity smell. And I don't think it's this, because I was smelling it yesterday. It could be. Anybody who's familiar with port wine magnolias know that you can smell them at a certain time of day. They virtually have no smell, but in the rich heat of an afternoon you smell them then. But the port wine magnolias have a smaller leaf. See if I can dig up a flower. I'm not, without falling off this. Wait, I'm down here, guys. Yeah. Very similar to a port wine magnolia. Wow, but there's bloody ants all over it. Oh. What is that? I'm pretty sure it is a type of evergreen magnolia tree. Didn't have a very pungent smell, the smell I'm smelling, but be fine. Ferg, I think that was about it, wasn't it, mate? And how do you think you would have adapted had you not had a Lao partner? I'm pretty sure I'd be further along now in speaking Lao. I'd probably be able to speak a little bit bigger, because I've always had that safety net of somebody else translating for me. I've always had somebody to converse with in English. If I was here by myself, I would have been forced to learn, and that's probably a good thing. Yeah. Now, I've been here full time, 5.5 going on 6 years, and I can shop, that's about it. I can ask people basic questions, but to have that conversation, no. But you know, there's not making excuses. There's people who've been here 20 plus years, and I can speak more to them. It's up to the individual whether they want to or not, you know, whether they have a need to or not. And if you're here by yourself, you'll have a need. You'll want to be able to converse with somebody, I believe, anyway. Unless you do, without a Lao partner, you do just surround yourself with the other English speakers. But it's still going to happen, guys. I don't know exactly when, you know, like I said, once we're not so reliant on the YouTube revenue of helping pay our bills. Yeah. And I'm still enjoying it too much. But how good's this weather? Oh, mate. We picked the right spot at the right time, didn't we? Imagine just being out. Oh, you see the roads coming in yesterday. Water off the side of the mountain through the village, just shooting over the roads. And what general advice would you give to someone making the move? Don't rush. That's Lao P.D.R. Lao, please don't rush. When I first came over here and I'd go back and visit Mum, or she'd come over here, Mum said the biggest change in me that she noticed was I learnt patience. You really do need to be patient here. Yeah, because the Lao are never in a hurry, and you may not get something done in the time frame that you wish it to be done. You know, and getting upset about things that are out of your control like that is not going to accomplish anything. You know, it's just the way things are done here, so just go with it. Go with the flow. It's not getting wet, is it? I bloody hope not. Yeah, you were, weren't you? You was. So, yeah, if you're planning to move here, and when I say move here, I'm mainly talking about the people who are wanting to move here to retire. They're already self-funded. I'm not talking about people wanting to move here and find work. That is a whole different ball game altogether. You know, you're at that stage in your life where you just want to chill out and have no worries in life, and you can live a life like that here. You can be driving along the road. As long as you're mindful of other pedestrians and bike riders and cars, you don't have to worry about anything else. You're not having to check your speedo. You're not having to worry about having your seatbelt on. Not having to worry about red light cameras or speed cameras or bloody eating a hamburger camera or all the bloody stupid things we now have in what they call a developed country. You know, and it doesn't seem to knock down the I'm just going off on a tangent. I was going to say the road accident toll in Australia. It doesn't. They drive differently there. They drive at greater speeds in a developed country, don't they? When you're in an accident, you're in something scary. Where there is deaths here on the road and things like that, but as I said coming up here in the video, I wanted, because the road was good between Vientiane and Pak Lai, I got up to 80, 90 kilometres an hour and realised that I had an imbalance in my front wheels and tried to get it balanced at Pak Lai. No one had the machinery. And I said, well, they have it in Sabre. And he just looked and said, you're not going to need it the rest of your trip. You're not going to reach 7, because it had happened between 70 and 80 kilometres an hour. You're not going to reach that again. Bugger was right. The following day, we were averaging 15 to 20 kilometres an hour, if that. The road was that atrocious. Which comes back to, again, don't be in a hurry. If you're coming over to travel Laos and tour and you want to travel like we do, plan ahead, have lots of time. Don't be too greedy and want to chew off too much of Laos in one trip, because you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to cover the distance in Laos in a day that you do in the West, in Europe. When I say the West, I mean all developed countries. I'm not just saying the American side or, Australia. Sure, I sometimes do tend to miss out on giving a shout out to my European counterparts and subscribers. I'm sorry, guys, but when I say the West, you guys are included also. First world countries. So... what was I talking about? That would be my greatest advice, I think. Be respectful. And don't expect things to be done in a timely manner like they are in a developed country. But in saying that, not all things are done in a timely manner in a first world country, are they? You can drive into a mechanic and he can work on it straight away. You can go into a hospital and they'll take your x-rays, or you'll be diagnosed straight away. It's the same as going to a doctor's here. There's not many things you make appointments for here. Now, where you just about have to make an appointment for everything back home. You have to make an appointment to go to a bloody doctor to get a sick note for a day you had off work a couple of days ago. You're sick, you want to get a sick note so you can go to work the next day and give them the sick note, or you're not going to get paid. Oh yeah, we've got an appointment next Thursday. Well, that's no bloody good to me tomorrow, is it? That's just how clogged up the systems are in the West now, aren't they? But it's not so here. You just walk into immigration, walk into foreign affairs, walk into anywhere, and you will be dealt with straight away. It's happened all the time when we're on our travels throughout Laos. Something's gone wrong with the car. They just move over and start fixing it for you. For things like the work I got done on the Troopy and that, the people who I had doing it, Dale and BB, you do make appointments to book it in because it's a big job. But I could go to my old mate Paul's place and get all new tyres on it. Well, I guess you can do that in the West, can't you? Just drive in and buy all new tyres. You can, but if I wanted him to fix the bearings or, grease and oil change and everything, you'd drive it in and you'd sit there and play on your phone and you'd be driving back out in an hour or so. Can you do, but is there mechanics like that at home still? Don't know. 5 years over here, 5.5 years. It's not long, but as far as how quickly time is passing by and things are changing in the world, I've lost touch with the price of things. I'm always being checked on how incorrect I am with the cost of things in Australia now and stuff like that compared to over here. But it is a slower pace of life over here, and I really hope it never catches up. I do. They do need to do stuff about the roads, but we don't need big freeways all throughout Laos. They just need to know how to build roads that can handle the trucks on them, that can last, you know, and they can do that, because yesterday we were driving from Hongsa up to Neenee, and they were perfect roads, and they were perfect roads when we drove along those same roads 5 years ago, and trucks have been on them, so it can be done. It's just that shortcuts are made and cheaper materials are used, and people are not doing it correctly, and the roads just get chopped up to shit here. They are very bad roads wherever you go in Laos, but you do come across some roads that are good. You know, we're heading tomorrow up towards Mung Sai. Going to be staying at a little Tai Lu village on the way up there first, though. There's a homestay there. Whether we camp or stay in the homestay is a different story. But up to Mung Sai, and the road from Mung Sai all the way to Pak Mong, which is about halfway between Nong Pure and Luang Prabang, it's where you turn off onto the road to Luang Prabang. That is a great road and has been for many years. It'll be interesting to see what it's like now. I think I've just got carried away with this blog. How long's that? Yeah. It's been good chatting to you guys. It has. I hope I've answered your question, Ferg. I do. While we're here, there was another question I got from Steve. Steve asked me a very in-depth question. I think it was Steve Miller. I'll put it up on the board, up on the screen. His question about, he wanted to know what the locals use as far as medicines for, you know, bush medicines, for headaches, toothaches, menstrual cycles, everything we've got first world medicines for. He seemed to want to know what they use here. I don't know, mate. That is something I've never looked into, or never really needed to look into. They obviously do use a lot of bush medicine here, you know, especially up in the villages, but it is something I could pretend to tell you, you know. Weed. No doubt some of them would use weed for back pain or for different... Mate, I can't answer your question. I am sorry. I've got no idea what the locals use away from medicinal, you know, proper first world medicinal help. So, sorry I never got round to answering that. I'm just not that knowledgeable on bush medicines. Sorry about that, Steve. Can't help you, dude. But anyway, guys, that's it. This is my day here. I haven't moved. I thought it would have lightened up by now. We're going to go in and have a look. Well, we're hoping to. We're going to go in and have lunch in town and have a walk around downtown Pak Bang. Caught the boat coming in here yesterday, the longboat. It was very quiet all day, and it was 4 minutes past 6. I remember looking at it. We're getting ready to go up to the restaurant, and the longboat came in, swung it round and nosed in. So I just didn't realise the boats arrived so late here. The longboat, it comes from Pak Bang, if you don't know, is the overnight stop from Hoi Sai. A lot of backpackers and travellers coming from Thailand will get on the boat at Hoi Sai up in Bokau and travel all day down the Mekong River through these beautiful mountains and that, and they stop here overnight in Pak Bang. And I didn't realise they stopped so late. You know, they'd call up to some of the guest houses that are along the river there, stay there, and then come back out the next morning and shore off. So they wouldn't get much time to explore this town, and it's a very pretty little town. It's a very out of the way town. The town is only popular because of that boat trip. As I was saying, 99 point, I don't know if it was used or in an earlier video if it's made it. Just off the top of my head, I reckon 99.5% of the tourists that come here are off the boat. The drive here is a very roundabout way to get anywhere. You are out of the way here. You know, coming up through S.E.Asia to go to Luang Prabang. You'd go straight through S.E.Asia. You wouldn't come up to Hong Kong and Pak Bang. From here, there is, even though Luang Prabang is along this river, there is no road following the river for us to go to Luang Prabang. That is why we're going up over these mountains to Mung Sai to get to Luang Prabang, to get back down. We don't want to go to Mung Sai, but it's the only way without backtracking down into S.E.Asia, and I'm not going to be doing that sketchy bloody road that's between Hong Sa and S.E.Asia again in this weather. Mate, that was sketchy. So it is a backwater, this town. A very beautiful backwater, and it would make a great loop coming from Vientiane up through Pak Lai, S.E.Asia, Hong Sa, Pak Bang. I'm going to be marking it on the map anyway, so for those looking for an out of the way trip and to do this, it's on the map. It is. Right up. I'm just going to keep dribbling on if I don't turn these off.